Welcome back, Artie for J fam.
Thank you guys for tuning in to today's episode. Today we're going to be talking about how to communicate with your parents. So this is like a part 2 of what we talked about last week, or last episode. Last episode we talked about towards parents about how to communicate with their kids. And now we're going to talk to the kids about how to communicate with your parents, us obviously being kids. Not kids, but sons or daughters. We're daughters.
Sons and daughters.
Sons and daughters.
Well, yeah,
we're daughters. So we're going to talk to you guys from our point of view about how to communicate with your parents and then, looking at it from a godly perspective as well. So we're going to see what the Bible says about your relationship as a child to your parent.
Yes. So just like the other one, God is giving us the rule book. Like, He's giving us the guide. He's giving us the tips, the tricks, the answers to the test that's to come. And if you're smart, it's an open book test. So if you go to it, you will receive everything that you need in regards to everything in life. But specific going on to these three verses that we have in Exodus 20:12, we have honor your father and your mother so that you may live long in the land of the Lord with your God is giving you. And then we have Proverbs 1:8-9 that says, listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. They are a garland to grace your head and a chain to adorn your neck. And then lastly, we have Ephesians 6:1-3 that says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Mm-hmm. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if it cannot be more obvious, respect your mom and dad.
Respect your mama.
Respect your mama.
And your papa.
And your pops. Yeah. Mom and pops. They're the real G's. They the real ones. A1 till day one. Yeah. So the Lord is telling you, just respect if you want to live a long, peaceful, happy life.
Yeah. I mean, and come on. Who doesn't want to live a long and peaceful, happy life, right? I think that's everyone's number one desire, just to be living in peace, enjoying life. Mm-hmm. But of course, that's unrealistic, right? But how good is God that, even in his commandments, his first commandment literally is to honor your mother and your father. Yeah. And now for some kids, I know it's very hard.
Some of y'all.
And in my perspective anyways. But most importantly, why should we honor them? That's the number one question. Why? Why do we have to honor our parents when they're the
ones that created us. They're the ones that gave us birth.
Yeah, and it's funny because
I didn't choose to be here.
Right?
That's exactly where I was thinking.
Y'all produced me. I didn't ask.
I didn't ask to come to this world, but
God gave you the privilege of life,
right?
And
through them,
exactly. They were the vessels. They're the reason why you're able to be here.
Yes,
and it's very important to honor and respect them, because literally, it's in Ephesians. It says, "Honor them," which is the first commandment with a promise. Mm-hmm. It's not like you have rules and everything. There's laws, there's regular rules, but this is a commandment.
Yes.
This has a whole different purpose to it. You can have your regular rules, your regular to-dos of what you should and shouldn't do, but when you have a commandment, that's I need you to understand as kids the power that this word commandment has. Mm-hmm. It's telling you have to do this because it's a life or death thing. Yeah. Like that's at the end of the day, it's a life or death thing. Yes. But it's with a promise. Yeah. It's not just like we have the other commandments, right, of what to do, but this has a promise, because as kids, it's something where we're our parents, first generation, and then there's more generations to come. Our parents have that responsibility of raising us, of teaching us, of, molding us into good human beings for society. So that's a heavy responsibility they already have. And so because as kids, what we do with our parents, whether it's good or bad, it goes through our genealogy, our descendants, pretty much.
Our
generations. That's so simple. It goes through our generations, right? But that's the thing, is like what you do as kids, for starters. See, if you're a bad kid, you might struggle a little bit with your kids. I'm going to just say that nicely.
Yep.
So it's like, versus if you're a good kid.
Comes around.
Exactly. So for starters, that's the thing to keep in mind, is that however you treat your parents, the way that you behave, you're going to get that in the future when you have kids. But aside from that, it's a promise, because the second part of this passage that we read in Ephesians 6, it says, so that it may go well with you. And it's not just when you have kids, but it's in life in general.
Yes.
If you honor, you respect the people that help you come to earth, whether, regardless if you have a good relationship with them or not. Just a simple act of honoring and respecting, because through them is that you're able to be here on earth, so that it will go well with you, and that so you may enjoy long life on earth.
Yeah.
Right? You know, and like Danita was saying, is like what goes around comes around. So however you treat and respect your parents, that is also a representation of how you will treat other people, or when it comes to ministry as well.
Yeah.
It's like the way that you treat your parents is already practice for how you're going to be able to treat others outside when you are in ministry, when you're developing, you know, the gifts that the Lord has placed in you. So it's something that it's multidimensional. The way that you respect and honor your parents affects a lot of areas of your life.
Yeah.
Yes, and like Ruth was saying, you know, respecting your parents goes a long way, because it shows you're pretty much who you really are. Like, you know, actions speak louder than words. It's like you don't have to let anybody know who your character is. But sometimes it's funny that the way that you treat your mom and dad, that's a symbol of your character. Believe it or not, it's a symbol of your character. If you're willing to respect your mom and your father, then, you know, but nowadays it's one of those controversial, I guess, conversations, because what is the fine line of how to treat your parents? Because back in the day, like, you know our stories, you know, moms would be telling us, like, you know, back in their country or whatever, how they were raised, their generation, it's like, you can say, no, mom, you know? And it's one of those
try
things.
to get slapped, maybe. You say no. Ahí no está abierta decir no.
You want a whooping? Go ahead and tell me no.
For real. You were scared.
I know, yes. One of my mom's pet peeve was one of those, is that if she was talking in the room with somebody else, and when I was younger, and you interrupt and be like, no, mom, that's not the story. Oh, my gosh, girl, with just her eyes, she would tell you everything. Literally. But it's just funny how God, this is such an important, not just the fact that it's the first commandment, but it's also very important because before we even started this, I was mentioning to you guys that it's written multiple times, like the same word, like the same phrase, it's rephrased. But at the end of the day, it's not just in Exodus, it's not just in Proverbs, it's not just in Ephesians, but it's in multiple books of the Bible where God says, honor your father and your mother, and you will live a long, happy life. It's written all over the Bible, and I think there's more than 12 verses that have that same phrase rephrased, but you know,
it's the
same thing,
mom and dad,
right? So that just tells you how much God wanted to emphasize to the world that you have to respect. You know, even if you grow apart, like, you get married, you have your own family, right? But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean you're going to forget about your parents, right? As we grow older, we grow into different activities, and every stage of our life, like, you know, they were there since day one. They were our go-to people, and it's one of those things that it just amazes me. And bring it back, something very, very funny. Okay, it says mother and father, right? And I remember when I was in Bible study, Instituto Bíblico, this is one of the topics that really hit me the most. And I was like, but I do honor my mom and my dad, you know? And for those that don't know, I grew up with my stepdad. My mom remarried, and she, her second marriage, my stepdad, I was probably, 5-6 years old when they got together, and he's been a part of my life. I'm now 29, and he's always been my father figure. But in all reality, I asked, because I guess this can rub off a little hard for some people, because, like me, there's a lot of kids out there, or of daughters and sons that have grown or have been raised by their step-parent. Well, funny fact is that I thought, well, my step-parent is my dad, like, you know, he's like my dad, right? So I'm respecting and honoring my mother and my father. But it turns out that my brother, my hermano Joaquin, was like, no, actually, Jennifer, you've just been blessed so much that you actually have to honor 3 people. Your biological father, by all means, you still owe him and honor him and owe him respect, even though he didn't raise you, he wasn't a part of your life, but he still counts. And I was like, why? You know, me and my flesh was like, why do I have to do that? Like, I don't even know who this guy is, right? Yeah. But funny thing is that, no, he says, if you go read accordingly to the Bible, it's you have to honor your father and your mother, and you just happen to have two father figures. And I was like, but he's not really my dad, you know? And it's one of those hardest things, and I'm being very, very honest. Yeah. If he were to come up to me one day, you know, I have to pull my flesh and pull my old self, you know, together, and kind of talk to him and be like, I mean, like, I still have to owe him the respect, just as a person, you know? Yeah. And I just thought it was really, really, I was like, I thought it was just funny. The fact that I was like, what?
Yeah, and what's funny is that honoring and respecting goes beyond just the way you treat them, but it's also how you talk about them. And like you're saying, it's like, yeah, you don't even know who he is. You don't have a relationship with him, right? And so it creates a question for kids that, you know, that we're in that case is like, we have a step-parent. How do we, you know, honor, respect the, you know, a biological parent? It's simply by not disrespecting them when you talk. Yes, they may have made their mistakes. Yes, they may not be present in your life, right? But it's in the way you talk about them. You don't have to disrespect. Even that, yes, I understand that people can hurt. I understand, you know, trust me. I say we can go on talking about family trauma and then like issues with family, but it's a very sad, unfortunate thing. However, it's how you talk about it that in the way that you talk about somebody is how you honor them and respect them, right? Not being like, oh, yeah, that blah, 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 blah person and insert a lot of disgusting words, you know? Yeah. It's like a simple being like, yeah, that's my biological father. That's it. You don't have to add on anything because, I'm going to be blunt with you all. It's something where you're wasting time and energy talking crap about a parent that, you know, may not be present. And yes, and I'm not discrediting if they did hurt you, if they did cause any trauma, it's understandable, and we are sorry that you've gone through that. And that's something where we have our father of fathers who is there for us, our comforter, our creator, who that even if you have a lack of a parent, and I know this is getting a little off topic, but the Lord's really putting in my heart that if you do have a lack of a parent and you have some resentment towards them, ask the Lord to help you heal that so that you can obey what the Bible says, obey this first commandment with promise, because you want to live a good life. You want to live a long life, but then you've been hurt by the people who shouldn't have hurt you. That is where you can go to the Father and ask him to help you be able to heal those wounds, be able to, you know, help your heart, clean you, so that you don't have that resentment and you can eventually get to a point of honoring and respecting them.
Yes, and Ruth did bring up some good points about how to honor. Now, I know that there is a misconception when it comes to people interpreting these specific phrases where it says, honor your father and your mother. Honor your parents is not just specific. Some people like take it, they want to take it literal and be like, oh, I just can honor my parents by providing for them. Like, that's the number one thing that I could think of that a lot of people misinterpret, where they're like, oh, well, I give my mom money. That should be enough, right? Or they give them, like, materialistic stuff, or they, you know, but sometimes when the God itself is not necessarily talking about you honoring your parents by monetary, or it's not you honoring your parents by just handing them things. It's talking about what, like Ruth said, it's talking about you, talking, even if you talking in a good way, like, you know, making sure that they're well, that they're taken care of, that you want to, you know, make sure if. And I remember one of this specifically from a preach where the preacher was saying that if your parents are good, then you will be good. And it's like Ruth was saying, even if they did what they shouldn't have done to you, but the fact that you can still say good things about them speaks much greater of you than it does about them. And it's one of those things that I've learned along the way, and, you know, God has worked within me. But there's honoring both your mom and your dad. It's just simple. It's with simple things. Like, you may think, like, it goes back to, like, I'm telling you, God is just so amazing in the way, like, his plethoras and his, like, his parables come to hand. It's just, like, it's not about whoever brings the best offering. It's who gives it with, you know, with kindness, with a genuine heart. So it's, like I said, actions speak louder than words. By you saying good things about your parents, by you are a representation of your parents. Literally. And it's actually, you know, it's really cool to say, cool to be like, okay, well, my real dad wasn't a part of it, but look who I am. Look what I've become because of the grace of God. Exactly. And at the same time, we are representing not just our earthly parents, but we're also representing our fatherly, our heavenly Father.
Exactly.
With the way we portray ourselves and with the way we walk, and and we do certain things. So I did want to bring that up because I think there's a lot of people that when they read this, they feel like it's, oh, you provide by providing stuff for your parents, that's honoring them. But remember,
it's a way to honor.
It's a way, correct, but it's not necessarily all of it.
Yeah, because I can think now with like my mom, for example, is that I've been blessed with the great example my mom gave me when my grandma was alive, is that both of my grandparents are well, my grandpa's in El Salvador, my grandma passed away September of last year, so we're coming about a year now. And so I know that that's something I always had that example at home, is that my mom did financially take care of both my grandparents. My mom and her siblings, they organized themselves to make sure that they didn't lack anything, especially when it came, to basic necessities, but then when it came to medicine as well, when parents get to an older age, taking care of them, right? But in addition to that is that my mom not only provided financially, but whenever she could and she was able to, she traveled to El Salvador to take care of them. And that it's hard, especially when there's parents that are out of the country. It means getting a flight, like pausing your life here for a certain amount of time, going to your country, taking care of them, and then coming back. It's very hard.
It's servitude. It's servitude. It's serving. It's putting them above you. That's actually what you just were saying. That actually defines honor.
Yeah.
Putting them above yourself, it clearly defines what honor is.
Exactly.
And it's just funny because in my head it's just like, how like Mulan movie, if you guys have seen, bring honor to us all. Just funny though. It's just like
my girl is a big fan of Disney. It doesn't surprise me that she would refer me. Although I love Mulan, that's my favorite Disney movie. She's my favorite princess.
You're not gonna like me, but I've never watched Mulan.
Are you serious? You know how many times I've seen Mulan?
I haven't seen Mulan.
It is amazing. You have to watch it. You have to watch it.
Look, Mulan is my top one. Then it's Brave. Then is Raya.
I've seen Brave. I haven't seen Raya.
I haven't seen Brave or Raya. I've only seen Mulan.
If you notice, they're all fighting combative women.
Cinderella.
They're all independent, combative. Like
wow, she sees herself.
Uy, mírala. But I gotta watch
bring it
Mulan.
back
So you need a Shane. You need a Shane in your life.
Yes, I do, baby. Let's bring it back to the right.
Yes. So that's why I can think back, and then when my grandma, when she passed away, it was very hard because it happened so fast, right? And I know talking with my mom afterwards, I told her, I was like, honestly, Mom, you can. Like, we talked with her, and the one thing that I know comforts her is the fact that she was able to be there for my grandma. She went to El Salvador that last year that my grandma lived. She went to El Salvador several times. I think that's the most time she traveled to El Salvador in 1 year, and she was able to be there for her a lot. And then even the week prior to her passing away, she was so desperate. She's like, I need to go. And then, we quickly, the first flight, that, she came home from work, the flight that came out that afternoon, she booked it. So my dad, was coming home, and my mom was, leaving the house with her suitcase. And he's like, where are you going? She's like, I'm going to take care of my mom. And so, and it was very hard, it was very hard because it happened suddenly. But, we talked afterwards. I'm like, she has that comfort that she was able to be there for my grandma in her last week, in her last couple of days. And so I told my mom, I was like, honestly, Mom, you are the biggest example. Oh my gosh, no, Lord, I don't want to cry. I told my mom, you are the biggest example to me of what it is to honor your father and your mother up until your last day. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I'm like, I, as a daughter, now don't have an excuse to say, no, I didn't have a good example at home. Yeah. I've had a great example. I'm like, when it comes to my dad, his dad passed away, when he was a little kid. But he has my grandma, and even though my dad was raised by his grandparents, he didn't get in communication with my grandma till he was older. But now that he is, grown up, has kids, he has a relationship with my grandma, and he takes care of her. Even though my grandma's well off, she has her little husband, and then her retirement and everything. But even though my grandma is she's well off, but my dad still, in any way that he can, he takes care of her. And so that's something where I've seen that example with my parents. So now me as a daughter, I have that responsibility of continuing that legacy of honoring my parents, honoring them. And then that ties in that we wanted to establish this concept of honoring, because when you understand the importance of honoring, that will have your heart in the correct posture to be able to be a better communicator with them. So when you're able to honor and respect them, you can communicate and be open with them, and establish that
confidence.
Yes, establish that confidence, that trust, to be able to have that open communication with them. So, and that's on you whether or not you're willing to be. If you're willing to honor and respect them, then you'll be willing to open up with your parent and communicate with them.
Now, not fun fact, but like just a fun question that since we're talking about parents, and this is, we live in this generation or this culture, let's put it like that, in this country where putting parents into what is it called?
Retirement homes.
Retirement homes. What do you guys think about that?
No, I'm sorry.
That just popped in my head. I know for a fact I would not do that. I would not no. But it's just a common thing, and it's just like it's one of those things that it's literally like I see them everywhere, and it's funny because my dad's always doing like job sites, and a lot of where he works is like retirement homes, and I just was like, what do you guys think in that aspect of what God would think? I don't think he would be, in my personal opinion, I don't think he would be happy. I don't think it's something.
You know how many parents are left alone, forgotten?
Abandoned.
They're literally abandoned. They're not treated. Not I'm saying that all retirements are bad. Well, not all retirement centers are, but let's be honest. A stranger is not going to care for you a way a family member should or normally does.
Exactly.
And the fact that they place you there, I've seen so many families that they put them there because they see that family member as a burden. So they just want to deal with it. They want somebody else to take care of that person, and they forget about it completely. And these people grow to be so lonely and forgotten, and it breaks my heart because they didn't give you up. They didn't give you up. They didn't send you for a private school or daycare for all your life until you turned 18 when they were happy enough to get you back. No, they were there feeding you. They were working 2 to 3 jobs to sustain you, your siblings, or if you're an only child by yourself. But the fact that they weren't willing to put you in a facility to end your days, they're like, that's just, I find it so, one, disrespectful. Yes. You're not honoring your parents right there. 2, it's lonely. Believe me, when you grow to that age, you will want your kids to care for you. Somebody that cares and loves you. You wouldn't want to be left behind or forgotten.
Yeah, and like Ruth was saying, with her family story, that we will take that part where we know that we did everything that we could to give everything to our parents, and that is truly the essence of what God is saying through these verses. That no matter what the relationship has been, but you can until the very last moment change that if the relationship wasn't well, but that's something that you're gonna keep, and it's gonna bring peace to you, your soul, your conscience, that you did everything in your power to give everything to your parents, and that's what God, I really, really do think that he means through these verses, is that if you love your parents here on earth, how easy will it be to love him in heaven? Because we are respecting his commandments and honoring our parents here. If we honor our parents here, that means we know how to honor him in heaven.
That's a heavy thing. It reminds me of a video I saw where it was another podcast, but they were asking the wife, like, how are you able to honor your husband so much? And she said, because the first thing, she's like, I don't see him first as my husband. I see him first as the son of God that he is. And and like the thing is, when you apply
marital tips,
girl,
I was gonna say
marital advice
concept with our parents as well. Yes, that's our mom, that's our dad, but that's also our dad is a son of God. Our mom is a daughter of God as well. So if you see them through that lens as well, it's like, just how much love does God have for us as sons and daughters? The same way God loves our parents as well. Yes. He created them and he chose them as a vessel to bring us into the world, right? And like we were saying again, it's like, we understand parents carry their own set of baggage, their own things, right? But then it depends on us and how we honor, respect them, and how we decide whether or not we want to continue on carrying certain things. It's like every person has a purpose and a reason to be on this earth, right? And so just like they have a purpose, they have certain things that they're good features, right? Good features, good characteristics that, as a son or daughter, you carry that. So if you're like, I don't want to be like my parents, so that's understandable, but at least take away the good parts. At least take away the good features and be open. Be open to continue certain legacies, good legacies, of course, good legacies, and you're going to see how, through that you're honoring and respecting what the Bible is saying.
Yeah. That's definitely true.
And I think one of the hardest things as a child to honor the parents is just listening. How many times has your mom or dad come and said something, you're like, yeah, mom, yeah. But half the time you're not listening. That's happened to me. I'm honest, I'll be like, yeah, mom. I'm like, okay, let's move, But it's one of those things that as parents, the older they get, the wiser they become, correct?
Facts.
So it doesn't, like Ruth was saying, we want to cherish the good, take the good parts. There's always good and bad, but of course with any relationship, especially this, with your parents, you want to take the good and just learn, be open and listen. Listen is key. Just as I think the episode before we talked about communication between parent and child, right? But I feel like if you work it the other way from child to parent, I think it's communication, but as well as be open to listen. Listen. Half the time, children don't listen, and then they come to the parent when it's already too late. And that's just how our relationship with God works as well. Yeah, like God speaks to us in many ways, but then there we go, hard-headed, and and we don't listen, and that's a problem with the child to the father, the parent to the child. Is, I feel like communication, things can slip by, but when it comes to child to a parent, I feel like we're not open to listen, and sometimes it just takes one quick second that can save you tears, that can save you from a lot of things. And sometimes it's funny because I remember this when I was in high school. I'm like, darn, if only I had listened to my mom, I wouldn't be where I am, But at the end of the day, if I hadn't listened to my mom, I wouldn't be where I am right now. Exactly. I wouldn't have the things that I have. I wouldn't have built the character or be the woman that I am if it wasn't for my parents. And I thank the Lord that, yes, I didn't grow up with my biological father, but my stepdad did the role, and he did a fabulous and amazing job for it, because look where I'm at. Yep. And that speaks a lot of who your parents are. The fact that how you are so very independent, how you are very courageous, because then I've been doing some crazy stuff that I don't, not bad, right? But she's very outgoing, okay? Don't get me wrong. She's very outgoing, she's very friendly, she's very funny, and she's just Denya. Like, I can't imagine her not being Denya,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? And we have a lot to thank for her mom. If you guys one day, we're praying that the Lord, makes her mom change her mind and come and join us. Oh my gosh, I can tell you that podcast, it would be
honestly,
a blast.
I feel like the three moms together would be a funny podcast.
Yes.
Oh,
like
hilarious.
One time, I think we should do an episode of where they replace us.
Yes.
And let them
That'd
run
be
it.
so great.
That'd be so funny.
I think it would be funny.
I'm still waiting for your mom and my mom to meet.
No, I know. We've had events where we thought that they would finally meet, and it doesn't happen.
It'll work in God's timing.
But bring it back to Jennifer, what she was saying. I think we talked about it when we're like, okay, parents, make sure that you're actually listening and hearing what your child is saying. And I think as a child, we also got to remember, as your parents, we can't compare to them either. You know what I mean? You have to be open and willing to communicate with your mom and dad. Like, you might think it's hard to bring up certain topics, and it might be weird, and oh my God, it's cringe and whatever. Like, but no, because I've talked to the generation, to a few of the kids that I teach, and they're like, oh, I could never talk to my mom like that. I could never talk to my dad like that. But I'm like, if you're not willing to do that, how are your parents are going to be able to do that with you, Like, if you're always running away and thinking that they don't understand you, when, believe me, they've been in your age. They've gone through what you've gone through, and maybe a little bit worse, because back then society wasn't so accepting with certain things, you know? And I think society now, the generation now, everybody's more outspoken and they talk about a lot of topics that are more taboo and cliche and stuff like that. But back then they were more shut off, and so it was a lot tougher actually on our parents than what it is for us now. And so I think also a good way to communicate with your parent is also being willing to accept advice and accept feedback. Nobody's against you. Nobody's plotting against your fall, or like, nobody wants you to trip and get hurt and learn a life lesson. No, your parents are trying to avoid that, actually. Just like she said, they're trying to save you some tears, some pain, some suffering. Like, and that's what God ultimately literally wants us to stop suffering. He literally died in the cross, like Christ died in the cross for us, you know? And when he comes, all that pain and suffering will be gone. And so, like, yeah, just I really, really, really advise all of you to speak to your parents, no matter how afraid you might be of certain things, or you don't know how they might react. But if you never try, how are you going to ever know? And accept any feedback. Feedback is good. It's for improvement. Yes. It'll make you a better person.
Exactly. So whenever our parents give us any advice or feedback, it's always coming from a good point, like both of you guys said. It's because they've lived life, they've gone through their things, and believe it or not, your parents have probably done their own little things in life that they probably haven't talked to you about. I'm like, with my mom, it's like my mom always will share stories with us about her childhood and stuff like that, and so it's like over time we've discovered, like, you did that, Mom? You did what? Whereas my dad, it's a little harder to get some stories out of it, right? Out of him. But as we've gone by, we're like, dang, our parents have really lived a full life. They've lived and done their things, their fair share of things and mistakes, and they've learned from them. And so whenever they give us advice, it's coming from a good posture, because they love us and want us to be successful in life, want us to live a good life and not go through a lot of hardships that they went through. So that's why it's important to understand that you are truly and fully loved and accepted, you know, first by our Father, our Heavenly Father, but then as well by your parents, you know. And if you're adopted, that's an even better, that's a whole other topic right there. But it's like, not only did you have, you know, maybe your biological parents had their reasons why they put you up for adoption, but then you have your adoptive parents who chose you. They said, we want that child to be our child, you know. It's like, you don't get to choose your parents, but it's like they got to choose you. So, you know, it's, when it comes to parents, there's always that concept of them truly loving you and accepting you and wholeheartedly loving you and are willing to give their life up for you. You know, we don't always, there's certain things that we won't understand until we are parents, you know. My mom mentioned last week even, where we were out and about pretty much all last week. So it's like, she'd come home from work, and then my brother and I were like getting ready to head out and stuff. And then they went for a camping trip, and she's like, I don't know, whenever I have like little trips like this, I know it's just camping and it's like an hour away, but like in my stomach I feel something like I'm missing a piece of me, or just, she's like, I think it might be because of the belly button. I was like, huh? She's like, the umbilical cord. And so I was like, that's a very interesting concept to think about. It's like, you know, one day a while back when we were babies, it's like we were connected to our mothers that way. So there's a special bond and connection there that us as daughters, we won't understand, but that our moms, they will, because they carried us in their womb, you know. They felt us through in their body for the 9 months that we were in there, 9-10 months that we were in there. So it's something where you might be like, no, but my parents don't really love me. You don't know. They might not express it the correct way, because this is the first time they are being parents, so they're learning as they're going along, but they truly and fully love you and just want the best for you. So be willing, like we were mentioning, be willing to honor them, respect them, be open to have that communication. How can you communicate with them? First, by honoring and respecting them, and then having the heart posture to communicate to them and be willing to receive whatever advice and feedback they give to you, because they want the best for you. They love you with their whole heart.
Learn how to talk to your mom and dad. It's important, because we said it to them. They're your number one fan, and you want them to be your number one fan. And they love you unconditionally, just like the Lord loves us unconditionally. And what better way to learn how to communicate with them? It's just very important, no matter how much we emphasize it. And go through the scriptures. Go through it. There's so many scriptures that you can read in the Lord telling you how to respect your parents, how to honor them, how to communicate with them. What happens when you do that? And the rewards you will receive in life. So do it. Just do it.
Thank you.
Amen. And I think that's it. That's going to be a closure, a wrap on this episode for today's episode. We just want to say we are truly appreciative of all of you guys, everyone that takes a little bit of your time.
Yes.
Just by viewing us, just by viewing, listening to us. It really is much appreciated. Because we know that this isn't in vain, and we know that, there's a purpose in God allowing us to be able to do these videos for you guys, these episodes, and, we are on our social media platforms, right, Dania?
Yes, we are. We're everywhere. We're literally on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. Honestly, you name it, we there. You Google us, we there. Reckless Devotion for Jesus. Literally what we created already for J4. So just follow us, comment, DM us, message us. We're here for you. Honestly, we want to talk. We really want to have a conversation with you. And we loved interacting with you. So feel free to interact with us.
Yes. Alrighty. Again, we appreciate you guys, and we can't wait to see what's in store. 34J is out.
Bye.